IAB, Institute Aminuddin Baki, MELTA, Ministry of Education, Science and Technological Research, and also the Sarawak State Education Department. We also make sure that all teachers involved in the dual language program, all 2,000 plus teachers teaching science and mathematics for Primary 1 2020, will be set for training. Okay, I've mentioned earlier that the pilot cohort has been trained last week, 2 weeks ago actually. Okay. The Sarawak Cabinet has also approved an allocation for 500 non-option English language teachers to undergo a postgraduate certificate program in TESOL. This is in line with our stance that the English language lessons should also be improved, and we need to make sure that our teachers are equipped with what they need. Okay. And, okay, yeah, 30 seconds. So, okay, the ministry worked with National Geographic and Cengage Learning to provide STEM resources in English together with training for rural schools in Sarawak. We have piloted this in 20 schools, and this year we will start with we will add another 60 schools. And hopefully we'll be able to provide STEM in English resources for all the schools in Sarawak. This is to support our students and our teachers. Okay, and parents and communities. The ministry, through various engagements and outreach programs, we reach out to communities and parents, not only to tell them why it's important and why they should support the teaching of science and maths in English, or why they should support English, but we also go all the way to the rural areas to speak to parents, communities, longhouses, tuai rumas, on how they could help their children accelerate their learning. Therefore, with this, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the agencies, stakeholders from the Ministry of Education, teacher training colleges, teachers' unions for helping the ministry and for supporting us all the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think basically we don't deny the fact that, you know, teaching science and mathematics and English is beneficial, because we are producing learners for the real world. When students qualify after tertiary education, they go out there, whether our students are marketable or not, whether they get a job to be part of the organization or to be someone who is bringing change, making a difference to the organization. So something for us to ponder upon. Now, we can see that from the three panelists, Professor Dr. Stephanie Pillay gave you an idea, based on her research, her experience about science and mathematics in English. And then we had Dr. Molly McHart. Her experience is basically in the Arab countries. Now we have Ms. Hazelin from the Ministry of Education, Sarawak, about the initiative. Now, I was involved in 2003 when English and maths was supposed to be in English. The 40 of us were asked to come up with a module to train master trainers, and I still keep the modules with me. And then they reverted to Bahasa Malaysia. And now, back in Sarawak, you have science and maths and English. It's very interesting. Even in the Arab countries, it started with science and maths and English, and they said, no, 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 no. Let's go back, make a U-turn to Arabic. Now, this is interesting. Now, you have your questions ready, right? You have all the questions ready, right? Okay, let's start with the first question. Yes, Stephen Hall, old friend from New Zealand. Now, 15 years after Malaysia, he says, I'm more Malaysian than New Zealand. Okay, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, it was 2002 actually. We started with English for Maths and Science. So my question is this, and I think there's a common thread. Here we are in Sarawak with a rich, culturally diverse and biologically diverse area, and we're importing materials from Cengage. And earlier saw an award to an excellent organisation that links conservation and Sarawakian concerns with English language. Isn't there a little bit of a mismatch here? Because I think part of the failure for earlier English, maths and science was that it was culturally diverse from the environment. It was divorced rather from the environment. So my question is to any of you, don't you think we should be drawing on local resources and the local environment in order to make this successful?
Thank you. I think we have to keep our questions short and precise. It is very easy to have that question, that is, are we having the Sarawak context in this case? Okay, Hazelin, you might want to answer that question.
You were asking about whether or not the implementation is based on Sarawak context. Our answer is yes.
The material.
The materials, we are currently using the ready materials that were designed for DLP schools. So the Ministry of Education already have those materials. What we are adding on as additional resources are National Geographic, those science, technology, engineering, mathematics books as an added library resources for students to refer to.
Sorry,
Yep.
are the materials now Sarawak, based on the Sarawak context?
No, the materials now are designed based on the Malaysian context because it was designed for the use of the Ministry of Education Malaysia. So we are only getting those resources because we do have textbooks. And I think it's unfair if we design or reinvent the textbook, because what we're going to do is we're going to make our students learn something different than the rest of Malaysia, and that's not really the point.
So you have the Malaysian context.
Yes, the Malaysian
and
context.
you're also redefining what Malaysian context is all about.
Yes, in the classroom, of course, we will have to add on, adapt, and adopt those textbooks and materials.
So it is not written in
Sarawak.
stones or rocks, it's written in sand. So you can make some changes along the way. So that's what Sarawak is trying to do.
Yes.
Right? Okay, the second question. Yeah, second question? Yes, yes please. Mari is from
Okay, can you hear
Portsmouth,
me?
yeah.
Okay, so the question is this. I'll try and be very brief. So we've heard about the policies going back and forth between English and Bahasa Malaysia for the teaching of mathematics and science. So what I would like to know is what were the reasons that made the decision to go back to Bahasa Malaysia in, when was that, 2000 and whenever it was. And what has changed now in Sarawak for this decision to go back to English? So I would like to know what is it that is making these decisions go back and forth?
Thank you, Mario. Okay, what's the decision? It was introduced to use English, and then no, go back to Bahasa Malaysia, now go back to English. Yeah, Hazelin, that is from the ministry, yeah.
A different ministry. Well, the Ministry of Education back in 2010, 2012 decided that the policy is to change the policy from the teaching of science and maths in English to what's MBM, MBI in English? I don't know. But but yeah, back then they decided to change back the policy from English to Malay. Why?
All right, I think we leave her alone for a while. We have the why. We're going to ask Professor Stephanie. Why, Professor?
Why indeed? There was a lot of pressure from different, different groups, shall we say, pressuring the government to go back to get rid of English as a medium of instruction. But I think one of the motivating factors was a study. Okay, I'm not going to comment on the study. There was I'm trying to be polite here. There was a study that basically said that the whole program or the whole policy wasn't working. That teachers were using very little English in the classroom when they were teaching science and math. Students were not, they didn't like it. They found it really difficult to understand concepts in English because they were not proficient in English, blah, blah, blah. But, at the end of the day, it was also political, right? As it's not just us. Any country that you go to, it is always going to be political, okay? So it's not, specific to Malaysia. So that was one of the reasons why we then went back. But then again, pressure groups from a lot of, again, I would think a lot of upper middle class parents who then said, no, we still want English, but we can't afford to send our kids to international schools, because there was a lot of shift to Chinese schools and a lot of shift to international schools at that time, if you look at the statistics, when the policies were being really, iffy. And so what happened was then you had the dual language policy. But the dual language policy, I have to stress, is not a bilingual policy. So schools had an option. They had to fulfill particular criteria, but they could choose to teach math and science and I think IT, right, in English. So it's not like you're using two languages to teach math and science or those subjects. So dual language is also, it's not the same definition as perhaps other countries where it's taken to mean bilingual and you could use two languages or more in the classrooms.
Yeah, maybe we want to listen from the Arab countries' perspective. Why did they move from English to Arabic now? You want to hear, right? Say yes. Okay, yes, all right.
I was actually. Okay. Okay. I was actually also dying to ask a question, so I will answer that. Essentially, kind of what it sounds like the same reasons, sort of politics and research. As I mentioned, the emir shifted power, and the new emir was very traditional and said, we don't want Western influence in our culture. We really want to preserve our Arabic culture. So I think that was sort of the bottom line of why it changed. One thing I'll say too about policies is that when they changed, they happened overnight, but they also were not clearly communicated. So things happened, and then we would find out about them in the news. It would take a little while for it to get to the English newspapers to find out what was really going on, and the same with the policies. And so I actually had a question about the teacher involvement. So I heard a lot about professional development opportunities, and I saw the same thing happen in sort of, okay, here are boxes of books, you can go teach now, or here's a workshop. But what about perhaps teachers who have been teaching for 30 years and either aren't able to or aren't willing to acquire English as their chosen medium of instruction? Do they have any options?
This is a difficult question. Okay, what we do for now is we're starting with primary 1. So we're not doing what PPSMI did in 2002, whereby English or teachers in primary 1. If talking is always who's teaching 2 or 3. So we're going to make sure that the first batch out with primary 1, and the language for science and mathematics for primary 1 is not as difficult as if you're teaching science and mathematics for Form 4 and Form 5. So we hope that this will scaffold, not just for students, but for teachers as well, to give them the chance to adapt, to get comfortable with teaching in the language. So we're not going to come and, teach, now, go, shoo, shoo. We're going to make sure that it's done properly, slowly, as slow as we can, because it's still 2020, that's another 5 more months.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's very interesting. A new minister comes. I'm giving you a scenario. Teach maths and science in English. And all the teachers say, huh? Are we ready? Is there a plan, a structured, organized plan for 5 years, 10 years? Is there a projection, budget? So something for us to think about. You make an announcement for a policy that is so huge. Have you consulted the teachers in the classroom? Because end of the day, it's the student and the teachers, right? Agree? All right, something for us to think about, right? Right? So making these policy statements are quite easy. All right, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But at the end of the day, are the teachers ready? Do we have scaffolding? Do we have the resources? Are our students ready? When you go to class and say, good morning class, today we are going to do algebra. Huh? You go to Kelantan, algebra? Apa so mau cakap itu, ha? You see, are we ready for that? So that's very interesting. All right, let's listen to what Prof. Stephanie has to say. She's so eager to share something. All right, come.
I have a question. I don't have anything to say. I think I'm still, my concern, I know Hazel has said that you see that teachers will be trained. My worry is we're not talking about language teachers. We already worry about, there's so much drama about the proficiency of English teachers, right? But now you're talking about science and math teachers. They're not English teachers. And they have to now switch into to teach in another language. Okay, maybe year 1 is fine. You're dealing with very basic concepts. But what happens as the for the teachers that are teaching higher levels, because it will get there eventually? Not doing something. If you really are serious about this medium of instruction in English, then you have to start about it. And oops, even the mic doesn't want me to talk. See, when the PPSMI came up, right? And if those of you are old enough to remember that, everything had to be done almost overnight, right? There were CDs done, really bad CDs, okay? And I had to do voiceovers for them. I did my math and science in Malay. Now, I think I'm quite proficient in English, right? I found it really hard. I did not understand a lot of the terms. Algebra, yeah. But there were a lot of mathematical concepts, for example, that I really had to actually look at a bilingual dictionary to think, oh, it's this. I knew the Malay terms. I didn't know the English terms. Now, if I had difficulty switching, can you imagine a teacher who has been educated in Malay and now has to teach? Teaching is different, It's not just talking to someone, right? And the higher you go, it's going to become more difficult to explain concepts. Do you remember math? Okay, I did really badly at math, but it wasn't a language thing, okay? And science, how do you explain something? Now, are we going to allow, because you can't help it, we're multilingual. That's going to happen in the classroom, so are we okay with that happening? Right? And so these things must be communicated to the teachers, okay? Sorry, I have another question, burning. One, promise. We said that having English as a medium of instruction was going to, because of the future, and we want our future generation to be out there. Now, the Chinese schools are now being left, right? I mean, as in, like, they can still teach science and math in Mandarin. So are we saying that we don't care about them? The rest of Sarawakins can, are going to be the future of Sarawak, but how about them? It's just a question. I'm just wondering, by saying you can teach in Mandarin, are we not saying, if we say that doing it in English equals blah, 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 then by them not doing in English, doesn't it mean then it doesn't?
Let me clarify this statement. If I don't teach science and maths in English, am I a failure? No, sorry. If I don't learn science and maths in English, am I a failure? I mean, I'm asking a rhetorical question. Don't answer. All right? It's something for you to think about. That's what Professor Stephanie is talking about. Okay, Hazelin, you want to answer that, right? Okay, let's listen to her. Yeah. It's getting very interesting. We are all conspiring with the title. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to reiterate that it's a program and not a policy. Therefore, the schools can choose whether or not. So,
okay, now she says
it's a program.
no, it's a program. It's not a policy. Please find.
Okay, when we at the federal level, they will announce that this policy you cannot say no. But where schools can actually choose to teach science and maths in English. However, the condition to be in the dual language program is that you must have teachers that are willing to teach. Parents are agreeable, and if parents disagree, you have it 2 classes. For example, if you've got 4, 1 class will be teaching science and maths in English, the other 3 classes will be teaching in Malay. And for dual language program schools, parents actually have a form that they need to fill in. I hereby agree that my daughter, my son, will go for this program. So,
Yeah.
so it's a program.
Yeah. Okay, Hazelin, thank you. So what she's trying to say is that you have a choice. Do everything in English or in Bahasa Melayu. So they have choice, right? Or rocks written on sand. So that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yes. However,
Okay, finish that line.
However, this is the thing, because in Sarawak, we're very thankful that the parents and communities, even the Dayak communities, are very, very supportive with the teaching of science and maths in English. So even from rural communities, we are seeing that people and parents are welcoming the teaching of science and maths.
Okay, can we have a reason why are they supportive? You want to know, right? Okay. Quick one.
In Sarawak, English has been a medium of instruction in schools even after the formation of Malaysia.
All right.
So after even in Peninsular Malaysia, you reverted to 1470,
Yeah.
right? In Sarawak, it was all the way until 1980. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but until 1980. So a lot
Okay.
of teachers, even teachers that are teaching science and maths in Sarawak right now, our premier ones, they can teach science and maths in English because they studied in the British curriculum in those
All right.
days.
So it's basically very constitutional. All right. Don't ask why. Okay. Now, yes, Dr. Molly has something to add. Now, I think this panel should go on, right? Okay. Now, I know you are showing that sign. Okay. We'll do panel 2 at the end of tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Molly.
I actually have another question. A question about assessment.
You're asking who now? Oh.
Our favorite panelist.
All right. Just ask. Yeah.
I am curious what the plan is for assessment, the assessment of the success of the program, but more importantly, the assessment of teachers. And are they aware of the assessment is, and is there a plan B?
Okay. Are there plans for assessment? A quick one.
Assessment.
What are your plans for assessment? Because you do a program, you need to assess, right? Yes, you want to know the outcome of the program, right? Okay, quick one. How is it going to be?
I don't like the word assessment. because
Okay,
when
she
you use the
doesn't
word
like that.
assessment, you are trying to put teachers, okay, you are a ABC. What we're going to do is we're going to get feedback from the teachers because we want this to be, developed, improved.
Okay.
And we're not going to tell teachers, oh, you failed. It's unfair to say that. I was a teacher before for many, many years. Okay? So I know the feeling of having someone watching over you, waiting to see if you pass or fail. So we're not going to do that. But we're going to make sure from the ministry side and ELTC that are going to conduct the trainings, we're going to look at it from a feedback perspective. How can we improve this and make it better? That's what we're going to do.
Okay. All right. Now, what Hazelin has said, perspective of what is this? We are different. We think. We ask all the stakeholders to come together. Let's come up with this program. Let's go through the whole program. Let's prepare a very structured and organized program. Because at the end of the day, we want to see light at the end of the tunnel. So that's what Sarawak is trying to do. Big round of applause for Sarawak. And then from the Arab perspective, Dr. Molly says that when the emir changes, then the policy might change. So it depends on the emir. You know what's an emir? Yes, it's the head of the country. All right? So it's quite political in nature. And then Professor Stephanie says, well, I'm a researcher. I believe that we have to do a very good research before we implement any program. All right? Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we are looking at. You need a successful program. You have to think about the teachers, the students, where they are. You don't want to go to a class and say, 7 push 2 is 5. Because that's direct translation from Malay. Setuju tolak 2 ialah 5. So tolak becomes push, not minus. Right? So that's what Prof. Stephanie is trying to say. Think carefully, do research, then you implement the program. So ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is this. Teaching science and maths and English has its benefits. However, we need to put lots of thoughts into this before we start implementing. Agree? Agree? Thank you very much, Hazelin. Thank you very much, Dr. Molly. And thank you very much, Dr. Stephanie. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that thought-provoking, interesting discussion. My team and I in Sarawak, we did a study, research on students who actually started learning maths and science in English from primary 1, and after they sat for UPSR, we did a study to find out what's their preference after 6 years of learning maths and science in English. We collected data from 2,000 over students, and the results has been published. You can look up, majority of them, more than 75% of the students say they want to learn maths and science in English in Sarawak. So it's time to thank our moderator, Dr. Aslam, and also the panelists. I would like to invite Dr. Zaira to the stage to present token of appreciation to our panelists. Yeah? We'll start with our first panelist, Professor Dr. Stephanie. Thank you. Next, could we have Dr. Molly? Last but not least, Ms. Hazelin. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have a few housekeeping announcements. First, schedule for the conference can be viewed online at the conference website. Please feel free to download. Announcement 2, please ensure that you wear your tags at all times. Registration counters will be open only during lunch hours from 1 to 2 p.m. Gala dinner will be held tomorrow at the ballroom. Please inform the secretariat. When you register, you have to inform whether you are attending the gala dinner. For further announcements, please refer to the announcement board. Lunch is served at several locations within the hotel. So when you exit later, please collect your lunch coupon. If you're a vegetarian, please look for the person who's holding the notice vegetarian. Thank you. I see you all later.
Mahathir announced this, but it already for 6 months had altered half years back. So he's using satellite as a trial. I just got to do something to set up my presentation. I'll send you an article I wrote on Nolan.